Let's get cooking with Care Team Plus, where flavor meets health. I'm Chef Karla, and today we are going to do dinners in a dash. So I'm thinking quick and easy weeknight meals for our busy families. Who's not busy all the time? So we have 3 awesome recipes today. We're going to start with a spicy sheet tray steak fajita, and that costs $3.40 per serving. So it's fantastic savings when you're making it at home. We're then going to hop into an egg roll in a bowl, which runs about $2 per serving. And we're going to finish with a nice sweet treat that's simple to put together. And it is going to be a chocolate berry panini that runs about $1.70 per serving. Let's jump in, let's get this cooking. For the spicy steak sheet tray fajitas, we're going to start with our vegetables. So what we have happening today, we're going to use 2 bell peppers and 1 onion. You can use a yellow onion or a red onion. I just grabbed a red onion for fun. So what I'm gonna do, I have 2 red bell peppers. Again, you can mix it up and do it different colors. And I'm going to cut the top and the bottom off, push those to the side. And then I like to square off the pepper, so I completely avoid those seeds. And then we're going to julienne the pepper. So I'll just run my knife through. And when I say julienne, I really just mean a nice slice. So here we go. You can use any color pepper, red, yellow, orange, green, whatever you really prefer. And it is fun if you use a different color because it makes the dish just look much more colorful. And of course, there's just a variety of nutrients. As you eat different colored foods, you get to absorb more nutrients from different colors, which is fun. All right, so what I'm going to do, I like to really hit the easy button on this recipe, and that was our goal for this whole cooking demonstration, is a meal that can come together very quickly. And when I mean quickly, I also mean less dirty dishes. Am I right? Nobody wants to spend, yeah, cool, okay, I'm cooking for 15 minutes, but then I'm spending 30 minutes cleaning my kitchen. No, thank you. So we're going to use a Ziploc bag today. I am just cutting up the bell pepper and I'll cut up the onion, and we're going to put those in a Ziploc bag. And then I'll mix it with like a kind of a marinade or a little bit of seasoning and just let it sit for a few minutes. Of course, you can do it just in a large mixing bowl. I like the Ziploc bag for just the ease in dishes. We're going to use a red onion today, and so again, I'm gonna cut the top and the bottom off. And then I want to cut the onion about the same size, similar size to how I cut the bell pepper. And so what we want to be mindful of is all of this is the steak, the peppers, and the onions, they're all going to go on a sheet tray together. And they're all going to cook at the same temperature for the same amount of time. So we do want to just be mindful that how we cut them will influence how long they need to cook. So we want to be mindful that we're cutting, you know, the onions are not too small where they will burn really easily while we're waiting for the peppers and the steak to cook, but we also don't want them to be so big that they just are kind of raw when you pull them out of the oven. So what we're going to do is just kind of let me show you. They're about the same size of this bell pepper because they will cook at about the same rate, so about the same thickness, and these little pieces will kind of fall apart as we mix them in the bag. And there is plenty of room for like air in this. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I want to make sure I cut them perfectly, you don't have to cut them perfectly. Just be mindful that they're not too huge or too thin. And we are going to pop these onions in the Ziploc bag as well. I do like on a fajita having like the onion and the bell pepper be almost like charred a little bit, right? A nice little crispiness to it. So I would almost recommend cutting it more on the thin side than obviously on the thick side. But that's just however you like it. It's totally up to you. Okay, so we have our bell peppers and our onions here. Now we just want to add a little bit of seasoning. So we're going to do some olive oil. We need about 2 tablespoons. I'm gonna just kind of eyeball just an extra virgin olive oil. Then we need some salt. So I need about 2 teaspoons of salt. Some dried oregano, 1 tablespoon. Perfect. And then some black pepper. Great. Then I will zip this bag up and then just kind of massage the seasoning into the peppers and onions. Also, you guys, I would like to tell you that this recipe would be super great as an option to prepare it the morning that you're going to prepare it for dinner. So if you are just a wild animal and you have tons of time in the morning, I'm mostly kidding, but if you do have like a little pocket of time in the morning, you could put all of this together, and then it's even easier when you come home from work, when you come home from that soccer game with your kids, and you could just throw everything on the sheet tray and pop it in the oven. That would be super cool. But some mornings they're just not that easy. So it's up to you how you want to handle it. You could even do this like a day ahead of time, which is cool too. Okay, so I'm going to set these aside and we're going to work on our steak. All right, for the steak, I promised a spicy sheet tray steak, right? So this recipe does have a little bit of warmth. We're going to use chipotle and adobo. So it adds just a mild warmth to it. I wouldn't really call it overly spicy. If your kids or you kind of just have more of a gentle palate, you can use no chipotle and adobo if you'd like, or you can use less. Chipotle and adobo really has a great smoky flavor and some warmth. So it's not like a habanero, it's not over the top spicy. So kind of use your best judgment in deciding if you want to use it or not. So for the steak, what I did is, again, I'm using the Ziploc bag to keep things easy. You can definitely just use a mixing bowl. So I went ahead and I got you could either use a skirt steak or a flank steak, and you'll find that I went ahead and already cut it. Otherwise I would show you. I wish I didn't get too far too ahead. But what you're going to see is just kind of a piece of meat that's about this big in length, and then it's pretty thin, like maybe like a half an inch-ish. It's a pretty thin piece of meat. And then what you're going to want to do is slice it against the grain. So think about like a piece of wood where you see that natural grain, just those lines in the wood. So say that's going parallel, what I want to do is just cut it that against the grain. So if it's running this way, I want to cut it like that, okay? And so what that does is it just makes the meat a little bit more tender. So when you take a bite out of your fajita, you're not pulling out the whole piece of steak, you're getting like a nice tender bite out of your fajita. So cutting against the grain with really any cut of meat when you're cutting it is really helpful for keeping it tender. It just kind of works with what you got. So we have this, it's about, let's see, about 1.5 pounds of flank steak here. And we're going to go ahead and add the marinade. So I'm going to get that going. I have about 1/2 cup of lime juice here. If you have if you have the time and the patience, fresh lime juice is going to just really elevate the marinade. If you're tight on time, already squeezed lime juice from the store is also going to work. So again, you've got lots of options. Then we're going to go ahead and use a soy sauce. So I need about 1/4 cup. So you can use this soy sauce or a low sodium soy sauce. There's also the there's Bragg's amino acids. I like to use cocoa aminos. So this is derived from coconut. It's soy free. And it's just kind of a little bit sweeter. All three are really great options, whatever, again, you prefer. Then we're going to I need chipotle and adobo. So I need about 3 tablespoons here. And when you get the chipotle and adobo, you'll see that you get these chipotles, and this is a can I already had opened and I just saved it because I feel like I never use the full can when I need them. So what I like to do is just freeze the remaining, and I'll just pop them in the freezer. They'll stay in your freezer for at least 6 months. So you'll be able to use it up and then it's not wasted. So what I'm going to do, I have like a little bit of the sauce in here. I'm going to put that in there because yum. And then I'm also going to cut up these 3 chipotles, and hopefully it's not too spicy. I think it should be fine. It just has a really, again, like I said, like a nice smoky flavor to it. But I'm going to mince these up. They're just pretty juicy because they're in that adobo sauce. And a lot of the heat is actually with the seeds in the chipotle. So if you add more of just the sauce, you'll get a lot more of that smoky flavor. And if you add more of the actual chipotle that have the seeds in them, you'll get more heat. Then we need some fresh garlic. So I need 1 tablespoon here. I love garlic. Our whole family loves garlic. So even though this is a recipe I wrote, I kind of just like double how much garlic we need. And if you're in the same boat, you love garlic, put as much as you want. It's going to be cooked, so it won't be like too spicy and bold and in your face. It kind of, caramelizes and gets delicious. But if you're on the more, again, the mild side, 1 tablespoon is going to be great. All right, so I like to smash the garlic cloves down. It just creates a more of an even surface area for when I need to mince it like this. And then I will just keep it in a tight pile and wrap my knife around. So I keep the palm of my hand on the tip of the knife and then pivot the knife. So keeping the tip of the knife on my cutting board. And I just want to cut it up nice and small so there's no large chunks of garlic on our steak. Great. And we'll pop that in our Ziploc bag. Going to rinse my hands here. And our last ingredient is some cumin. So it's going to, again, add more smoky flavor. We need about 1 tablespoon here. That's probably great. And then zip it up in its Ziploc bag. And with this, I would recommend, we're going to massage just this marinade in a little bit. And I would say it needs at least 30 minutes to marinate. And at most, I would say overnight would be fine to sit in the marinade. The thing is, when it comes to marinade, is that we've added citrus to it. So we've added an acid, we added the lime juice, and that is what actually tenderizes the meat. And it actually kind of cooks the meat. So if you've ever had ceviche before, the ceviche gets cooked because you add so much lime juice or lemon juice or any citrus. So if we have this marinade sitting on the meat for too long, it kind of cooks it, and not in like a good ceviche way. It gets, the texture of it will just get kind of funky. It doesn't become harmful at all, but it will kind of influence the end result and the end flavor and texture. So I would say the longest it can go is overnight. So that would, let's just say like no more than 12 hours. And at minimum, if you got it, try to do 30 minutes. Between you and me, if you don't have 30 minutes, massage it in like this and throw it on the sheet tray. It's going to have a ton of flavor and be totally fine. Especially on that busy weeknight, right? You've gotten home and you're like, oh my gosh, I never marinated the meat. Who cares? Put it all together, throw it on the pan. Everything's gonna be okay, and it will be full of flavor, I promise you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. You can set it in the fridge, or if you're only going to have it sit out for 30 minutes, that's also okay. If you're going to have it if you're gonna have it marinate for more than 30 minutes, pop it in the refrigerator just for food safety. All right, here we go. Cajun sausage, garlic and ginger. All right, we have our spicy steak sheet tray fajitas marinating right now. I have them over here on the sheet tray. The steak is mixed with that awesome marinade with a little bit of cocoa aminos, some garlic, and then we have the peppers and onions marinating as well with some olive oil, salt and pepper, and some dried oregano. I'm going to let those marinate while I'm putting this recipe together, and then we'll pop them in the oven and get to see the end result. So next we're going to do our egg roll in a bowl. I'm curious if you guys have ever heard of this recipe before. It's been kind of popular for a good period of time. And I took the idea and ran with it and added more vegetables to it. Again, I love it because it does come together so quickly. It's very flavorful and it's actually loaded with vegetables. So let me share it with you, okay? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna start again with our bell pepper. I have one red bell pepper here. This one we're actually going to dice. So I'm going to start the same way, remove the top and the bottom, and then I'll go ahead and square it off, completely avoiding those seeds. And then I'll take one of these planks of the bell pepper and cut it into this julienne or this slice, and then realign it and cut it into a dice. So the egg roll in a bowl is kind of course, just the concept of what you would traditionally put in an egg roll. So usually you'll see like some cabbage, onions and garlic, and maybe like a little bit of a pork all cooked together. So we're playing with that concept, maybe some green onion, right? And then usually you wrap it up in an egg roll like or a wonton and then dip it in like some type of like soy-based dipping sauce. So we're playing with all of those flavors, but we're skipping, the frying of the egg roll and the wonton wrapper, which just makes it much more friendly for the family and much faster to come together at night. And I like to serve this with either like white rice, steamed white rice, or coconut rice is so good. Or even like a steamed quinoa is fantastic as well. Next we have some green onions. All right, bear with me you guys. The recipe calls for 3 green onions. Awesome, love it. However, I love green onions, and when you buy a bunch of the green onions, multiple come, right? So then if I only use 3, I know that this upcoming week, I'm not going to use the remaining of what I've purchased. So I'm going to get wild, and I'm going to put all of the green onions in the recipe, just because I don't want to waste them. They're good, they're really quite mild in flavor, so the recipe won't be impacted too much. It'll just add a little bit more flavor. And I just don't want to waste them. So what I'm going to do is cut these little ends off of the green onion, toss those aside. And then if you want to be fancy, what I'm going to do is just kind of break these up into 2 batches. If you want to be fancy, you can cut them on a bias. If you're just not really down for that, just cut them straight down and just into a slice. And I'll go ahead and add the green onions with the bell peppers because we will add them together once they're cooking in the pan. With the green onions, I like to just pop off kind of what's dried or kind of dead, and it will naturally pop off if you just pull it right off of the green onion. It'll break it, it's just at that natural point. Great, have those in there. And then we need some ginger and garlic. So I'll start with my garlic. The garlic, I need about 1 tablespoon. Here I have so many. Maybe I should just do 4 garlic cloves because they're pretty big. So I do purchase my garlic cloves already peeled. It's just one step that makes things a little bit easier. Garlic is, I keep saying this, it is so good for you. It's a fantastic way to just fight any viruses. It really just helps boost your gut health. It's fantastic. It's good for almost every part of your body, if not all of it. It's great. So instead of skipping it because it just requires more effort, buy the peeled garlic if that works for you and mix it up that way. It just really skips a step, which is nice. I do recommend the peeled over the pre-minced garlic. Once it gets minced and sits in that jar, there's preservatives in it, and it does start to lose a little bit of that nutritional value. So this is kind of a good in-between, but also, again, if you're like, I'm not gonna mince it up, I don't have time for that, jarred garlic is also okay. See, we just work with what we've got, work with what works for you. Because you don't wanna skimp on that garlic flavor. All right, so then we have some fresh ginger here. This is a ginger root. When you go to the grocery store, you're going to usually see this by either the fresh garlic or you'll see it by like shallots. Sometimes I see it like in the pepper section. It is usually refrigerated. And they're sometimes like in these big kind of knots and kind of funky because they are a root. But what you can do is just pop off what you need, or you can buy the whole larger piece. But usually when you're cooking with ginger, you don't need a ton because it does have a good, while it's a really fresh, bright, beautiful flavor, it does have some heat to it. So what we're gonna do, this is all that I bought. I just broke off what I needed. And so what I'm gonna do is actually square off this ginger. So I'm going, because it needs to be peeled. So I'm just squaring it off, cutting the skin. Ooh, it smells so good. The ginger piece, I know it's just, again, an extra step. But again, it is so good for you. Very similar to garlic and how fantastic and how much of a powerhouse it is nutritionally, but it's also so great in flavor. And for this egg roll in a bowl, it really does elevate the dish. So if you've got it in you, I recommend putting in the effort and mincing it up. Okay, so what I did is I cut it into planks and then into strips. So just as we cut that bell pepper, and now I'm going to cut it into a dice, just to break it down, a really small dice. And then, just like we did our garlic, I'm going to keep it in a nice tight pile and I'm going to mince it. So again, keeping the palm of my hand on the tip of the knife and racking my knife through. Because again, you don't want any huge chunks of ginger. It will just be like, whoa. It's full of flavor. That looks great. All right, we're gonna set that aside. And I put the garlic and the ginger together because we're going to put them in the stove, on the stove top together. Ooh, our last one, we're going to put in some cilantro. I know there's two camps, right? Like either you love or you hate cilantro. If you don't love it, skip it. It's totally fine. You don't need it. But if you do love cilantro, put it in there. It's going to add, again, more bright flavor. It adds a really nice speck of color. So I'm all about it. The recipe calls for about 1/4 of a cup. And again, I don't see myself using the rest of my cilantro. If I only use a little bit of the cilantro, whatever I put in the fridge will likely just go bad. So I'm gonna use the whole bunch. We'll see what it looks like once I chop it up, but I think it'll work because it was quite a small bunch. And then what I'm doing now is just kind of picking through the leaves and just getting rid of any of the large stems. The stems, there's nothing wrong with them. They just kind of course, have just a different texture. Not as much flavor as the leaves. But if you, of course, have some stems in there, no problem. All right, once we have all the stems removed, I'm going to go ahead and bunch the cilantro up in a nice tight pile, and I'll rack my knife through it for this first round. And then just as we did with our garlic and our ginger, I need to mince it. So I'm going to keep it in a nice tight pile and rack my knife through. So just using this mincing method. Again, it smells so bright and flavorful. I love the smell of cilantro. It really just adds just that fresh, bright flavor. It's so good. If you know, you know, right? Great. Okay, so we have our cilantro chopped up. I'm going to go ahead and just leave it here because we're going to add it at the very end when we're preparing our egg roll in a bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands, and we're going to go ahead and get started on our stovetop. All right, for our egg roll in a bowl, we are going to go ahead and hit the stovetop. So what I have here is 5 pieces of just a chicken sausage. You can really use, like, you can chop up just even chicken breast or chicken thigh. It doesn't have to be in sausage. Ground chicken or ground turkey, ground beef will work. So really anything will work. I'm just looking for about a pound of meat in this, and I like using sausage because, again, it kind of influences that egg roll flavor. Traditionally, they're usually using pork and getting that awesome sausagey flavor. But if you don't have access to it, if you can't find it, or you just already have another protein, use that. So what I'm going to do, this sausage is actually in casing, so I'm going to open the package, I'll remove the casing, and then pop it in the pan, so it'll end up just being like a ground meat. So I'm going to go ahead and get that started. So the casing is very tender, so I just use this paring knife to open all of them. And then my pan is already preheated. We're at about medium heat. I'm going to add some olive oil to the pan. Olive oil or sesame oil, whatever you have. I do like a sesame oil. It does have a really great flavor, but I do also try to kind of limit our seed oils just because they're more inflammatory. So in this recipe, I figured we have other flavor options in here so that we don't need that sesame oil. So it's up to you, again, how you want to do it. So I have the oil. The pan is, again, at about medium-high heat. And then I'll go ahead and drop the sausage in the pan. I'm going to use a wood spatula to just kind of break the meat up as it's cooking. And then I'm also going to add our garlic and our ginger to the pan. All right, this chicken sausage looks awesome. It's about 90% of the way cooked right now. I have the garlic and ginger in there cooking as well, so it's very fragrant and delicious. Now we're going to go ahead and add our peppers and our green onions. And then we're going to add some shredded carrots. So this is so easy. You don't have to cut the carrots up, which I love. I'm doing just shredded carrots and add about a cup. This just keeps things really simple, but it also just bumps up the volume of the recipe. So it just makes the serving size nice and large. And then you're also adding some really great nutrients, adding all these vegetables. So we're going to let this cook for about 5 minutes or so, just allowing the vegetables to caramelize a little bit and soften up. And I'll just kind of stir it every once in a while just to make sure nothing burns and that it's cooking evenly. These vegetables are looking so good. I'm going to see if you guys can kind of see. Look how colorful that is. Doesn't that look amazing? The peppers, the carrots, the green onions, they've all kind of softened up a little bit. They've been cooking for about 5 minutes. Next, I'm going to add one entire bag of coleslaw mix. So coleslaw mix is really just shaved green and purple cabbage with some shredded carrots. So again, we're saving loads of time by not having to cut this up, and you don't have to measure, just throw the whole bag in. It's amazing, right? We'll pop that in. Then we're going to add a little bit of soy sauce. So the soy sauce is going to add some moisture to the dish to kind of help soften up that cabbage. And we're going to allow just the cabbage to cook until it's nicely wilted but not overly soggy. So again, about 5 to 7 minutes, add the soy sauce, keep your eye on it, kind of stirring occasionally every 2 or 3 minutes, and then it'll be ready. So easy. While our egg roll in a bowl is cooking on the stovetop, I'm going to go ahead and lay our steak and our onions and peppers out on our sheet tray, and we'll get these in the oven. So they've been marinating. It's been about 30 minutes. So they're good to go. Make sure everything's in there. And then we'll just pop it out. And they go all on the same sheet tray, which I love. Just nice and easy. I'll go ahead and pop the steak out. And you can kind of mix the steak with the peppers and onions. Mix all this goodness together. It's flavor. And I'll just use some tongs to kind of spread it out. And we just want to make sure it's spread out nice and evenly. This is a half size sheet tray, so it's a pretty large one. You might, depending on how large your sheet tray is, you could divide the two between two. You could cut the batch in half and put it on 2 different sheet trays, just to make sure that it has enough space to cook. But I just want to make sure that the steak's not really like on top of one another. It's okay if it's on top of the peppers and onions, but we don't want just a big pile of meat, because then it won't cook evenly. And so I just have them cut into good long, like fajita strips. We've seen fajitas before. Yum. And you guys, I forgot to mention, if steak's not really your thing, you could also, or you just want something different, you could use chicken breast or chicken thighs would be great. Even pork would be fine in this recipe. The cook time for pork would be the same as the skirt steak or the flank steak. But if you were doing chicken, so this we're cooking at 400 for about 12 minutes. If you're doing chicken, I would do 400 degrees for about 15 to 17 minutes until the chicken's cooked all the way through. All right, let's pop it in the oven. It's going to go in at 400 degrees for about 12 minutes. And look at how nicely spaced out that is. That's what we're looking for. Looks good already. Our egg roll in a bowl looks fantastic. Look at that. I honestly, call me crazy, but I do just think it just looks like confetti. It's so bright and colorful. It smells great. So I'm going to add our fresh cilantro here that we chopped up. We'll stir it in, and that is a wrap on that. That came together so easily, didn't it? And it's loaded with vegetables. You're basically eating like a warm salad. Right? You're welcome. I don't know. It's very good though. It's so flavorful. And what I love about it, so this whole batch actually serves 3 people. So the volume, the serving size is large. So when you walk away from your dinner plate, you're going to feel so satisfied. And eating all those vegetables is fantastic. Cabbage is really great for detoxing your body. So it's fantastic for your liver. So it's a win, you guys. I do recommend serving it with like some white rice. Roasted sweet potatoes would be great, or steamed quinoa would also be great. Fantastic home run dinner. I hope you guys really love it. All right, last but definitely not least, we have our chocolate berry panini. I love this dish so much because it comes together, again, very simply. We can add a little bit of nutrition to it, but it's also super satisfying. So everybody loves a panini, or even just, we can call them a cheese toastie, where they're just seared pieces of bread with cheese inside. That's the same concept. What we're going to do is just a little bit on the sweeter side. So I have 2 pieces of bread here. I'm going to go ahead and add about a tablespoon. You can either do almond butter or peanut butter, and I'm going to spread it. Just on one side of the bread. Then, great. Then today I have sliced strawberries. Honestly, we already had them in our refrigerator. They're in season right now, so they're usually on sale, which is awesome, and they're nice and sweet and delicious. So strawberries are great. You could use blackberries or blueberries, really whatever fruit berry you really like. And whatever's in season is going to be a little bit more affordable and also extra sweet and delicious. And that means it's more nutritious. All right, so that looks good. I just have lined it with some strawberries. Then we're going to put a little bit of chocolate chips. And just kind of sprinkle the chocolate chips here. Ooh. Great, and just kind of spread them out. And then we're going to preheat my saute pan. I'm just gonna take my piece of bread. There we go. So preheat the saute pan to a medium heat. You wanna be careful it's not too hot or you'll really burn that bread very quickly. Then I'm going to take some butter here. I'm going to do a half a tablespoon and just spread it here on the bread evenly. And we will put this buttered side down on our saute pan. Oh man, here we go. Go fancy. There we go. And we're just going to toast it. That magic happens. It's going to cook down a little bit. The berries will get nice and warm. The chocolate's going to get melty and gooey. And so what I'm going to do is just take the other half tablespoon of butter and then slide it on the other half of the side of the bread. So when we flip it, it's ready. We're going to allow that to cook for about 3 minutes per side, give or take, just until the bread is nicely toasted, nice and caramelized, and then you can kind of maybe see the peanut butter or chocolate's just getting nice and gooey. And then we'll give it a flip and do the same thing. All right, check out this beauty. Oh my goodness, it looks so good. The chocolate's nice and melty. The peanut butter is nice and warm. There we are. Ooh, that looks good. The strawberries are nice and warm too. Beautiful. You all, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you felt inspired, encouraged, or entertained. I'm looking at my kitchen as I'm wrapping things up, and it's actually quite clean. I have like a few dirty dishes, which is proof that these recipes are perfect for your weeknight dinner. They come together very quickly, they're full of flavor, and they clean up nice and quickly. So I hope that you guys love them. If you haven't already, go ahead and you can like the Care Team Plus page, sign up for any notifications so that you receive any notification when we have these videos launching. And if you love this video and the recipes, please share this video with your friends or family, and that's a good way to show that you love them. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day.